My name is Sheila. I'm 38 years old, and just last month I held my baby boy Liam in my arms as we lit the candle on his very first birthday cake. But as I looked around the room, the chairs I had decorated with little blue ribbons sat empty. Not a single member of my family showed up. Not my parents, not my sister, not even my best friend. The sound of laughter I'd hoped to hear instead echoed from another house in town, the one where my sister Harper hosted her brand new housewarming party. Before we move on, if you enjoy the new visuals, please like the video and comment the word mesmerizing below so we know you're part of the test group. Now back to the story. I grew up in a small house in the suburbs with two parents who looked from the outside like they raised their children the same way any loving family would. But inside that house, I learned something early on that never left me. Love was not distributed evenly. My younger sister Harper was the star, the one everyone's eyes followed the second she walked in a room. She had this effortless charm, the kind of personality that drew applause for the simplest things. She twirled through ballet lessons, flashed her blue eyes at neighbors, and always seemed to have a new story about her day that my mom and dad listened to as if it were the most important thing in the world. I was different, quiet, more bookish, the type of child who found pride in spelling B's and certificates clipped on bulletin boards at school. To me, achievements were proof I was trying to be noticed. To my family, though, they were background noise. I learned to smile when my name wasn't mentioned, to clap for Harper's recitals, even when I had something to celebrate too. By the time I was 9, I had stopped hoping they would ever cheer for me in the same way. Sometimes I think I became what you'd call an emotional orphan, living in a house full of people, yet still feeling like an outsider, waiting for someone to reach out with genuine care. The contrast between us played out in small, almost invisible moments. When I brought home straight A's for the first time, my mom barely looked up from the stove. She said, "That's good, honey," before asking Harper to show everyone her latest drawing. The paper crayon sketch won her an entire evening of attention, while my report card sat on the counter until it eventually got lost beneath a pile of mail. Another year, I placed first in a district science competition. My teacher made an announcement at school, but at home, my parents didn't even acknowledge it with a dinner. A week later, Harper won a coloring contest where every participant received a ribbon, and my parents threw her a party with cupcakes and balloons. I stood in the corner of our kitchen, smiling politely, wondering why effort only counted when she was the one making it. Year after year, the pattern repeated until it carved deep into my sense of worth. I hardened on the outside, carrying my disappointments quietly, but every dismissed achievement, every overshadowed moment, left behind a subtle wound that shaped how I saw myself. I started expecting to fade into the background. Birthdays, graduations, milestones, they arrived with little excitement in my house, which meant I went through life bracing myself for the silence that always followed anything I accomplished. This is probably why I chose nursing. I've always thought about it. Helping others was my way of filling the emptiness I carried from never really being cared for myself. I healed, comforted, and stayed present for strangers in their pain because I knew what it was like to sit in hurt and hear no one asking how you're holding up. My job became a quiet act of rebellion against the way love was rationed so unfairly in my own family. Meanwhile, Harper lived out the role she was handed, almost like royalty. Everyone praised her grace, her smile, her potential. At times, it felt like nothing she did could ever be seen as small. She knew how to hold an audience, and my parents were her most loyal admirers. I don't think she ever questioned whether she was important or special. She wore the security of favoritism like an invisible shield, one that let her move through life expecting others to rearrange themselves around her schedule, her needs, and her wants. I, on the other hand, didn't expect much. When you grow up being overlooked, you learn to anticipate it even before it happens. You lower your excitement before anyone has the chance to dim it for you. You pretend milestones don't matter as much, just to make the silence that follows less painful. But deep inside, there's always the quiet wish. Maybe this time, maybe this one moment will be different. All the years of being ignored in comparison to my sister planted a question in me I could never shake. If my parents always treated me as less important, if every childhood celebration ended with Harper at the center instead of me, Then, what would happen when it came to their first grandchild? Would things finally change for Liam's sake, or would history repeat itself again? The thought left me cautious, but as I began planning his first birthday, I held onto the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, my family would show up this time. I just didn't know yet how far they would go to prove me right. As Liam's first birthday inched closer, I threw myself into planning every detail, almost as if the party could repair all the cracks in my family if it went perfectly. I ordered a custom cake with soft blue frosting and a tiny crown on top. I bought matching tablecloths and streamers, made little favor bags filled with toys, and spent evenings after long shifts blowing up balloons until my hands ached. I imagined the living room filled with the people I loved, clapping as Liam reached for the candle and laughing when he smeared icing across his cheeks. For weeks, I told myself this celebration would be a turning point, the first time my parents saw me not as Harper's sister, but as a mother, giving their grandson his first milestone. At first, the idea filled me with excitement, but the responses I got from my family made me hesitate. When I told my mom the date, she said, "We'll see, dear. Things are pretty busy that weekend." My dad only asked if we planned to stream it online, like being present didn't matter much. Even when I sent digital invitations with RSVP links, none of them answered. The little monitor on my phone kept showing 0 confirmations. Day after day. I told myself they were just distracted, that people always waited until the last minute. Still, in the back of my mind, silence felt all too familiar. Michael, my partner, noticed the way I lingered over my phone, waiting for responses. Every time I sighed, he squeezed my hand and said, "They'll come, Sheila. Nobody misses their only grandchild's first birthday." He offered to order extra food and invite more of his relatives in case my side didn't fill the room. His calmness contrasted with the unease growing inside me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to step into the hope he held for us. But I carried the memory of so many skipped milestones that doubt clung to me. Harper, as always, was the hardest to pin down. I asked her directly if she was coming, and she gave me a vague smile. "Oh, I'll try, but I've got a lot going on with the new place. You know, moving is exhausting, and everyone wants to see the house. It's kind of the event of the month." Something in the way she said it stung, like Liam's birthday was just a casual gathering, while her stepping into a different neighborhood required everyone's applause. She leaned back in her chair, sipping coffee like it was obvious her priorities would come first. I remember staring at her, waiting for her to show the slightest spark of enthusiasm for her nephew's milestone. But she just changed the subject to the furniture she had ordered. The one person I leaned on most was Naomi, my best friend since high school. She showed up with bags of supplies, taped streamers to the ceiling, and even volunteered to pick up the cake the day of the party. Naomi had always been the reliable presence my family denied me, and knowing she'd be there gave me comfort. When the absence of my parents' enthusiasm crept in, Naomi's smile steadied me. "Don't worry," she said. "This will be a beautiful day. You and Liam deserve all of it." As the date crept closer, the uneasiness never fully left. Every time I opened the envelope box, RSVP cards still sat blank. My texts went unanswered, except for short replies like, "Maybe, I'll let you know," or the worst, no response at all. Yet, I still clung to the thought that no one, no parent, no aunt, no friend, would willingly miss a child's very first birthday. It seemed unthinkable, too cruel, even for a family like mine. The night before the celebration, I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by balloons and banners, trying to convince myself I had worried for nothing. Liam slept peacefully in his crib, the cake waited in the fridge, and the table was set for a crowd I was sure would walk through the door. I took one last deep breath, telling myself tomorrow would finally prove me wrong about everything I had feared. The worst part, I thought, was already behind me. What I didn't know then was that the real betrayal hadn't even begun. A week before Liam's birthday, I reached for my phone that morning like any other day. I logged into social media to share one more reminder about the party and froze. Harper's post blazed at the top of my feed. In big letters, it read, "Housewarming celebration, Saturday at 2 p.m. Come see the new place." My hands went numb over the keyboard. The date and time were identical to Liam's birthday party. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe she would realize the conflict and reschedule. But Harper's caption made it clear this was no oversight. "Can't wait for everyone to be here," she wrote, already certain the day belonged to her. My stomach turned. Of all possible weekends, she had chosen the one day I had been planning for months. I called my mom immediately, my voice trembling. "Did you know about this?" I asked. She paused for a long moment before replying gently, "Well, sweetie, it might be easier if you changed Liam's party. Harper just moved, and it's important for her to settle in." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Reschedule my baby's first birthday for her new furniture and front porch? The suggestion cut deeper than I expected because it revealed exactly where their priorities still lived. The first thought was the same familiar one. Harper's needs first, mine second. That night, I called Harper directly, demanding to know why she had planned her event on the same day. She chuckled into the phone, a sound that carried nothing but confidence. "Sheila, people have been waiting to see my new home. It's not my fault if it happens to be the same weekend. Honestly, everyone's excited. It's going to be the party everyone talks about." My chest tightened at her words. In one sentence, she pushed aside not only me, but my 1-year-old son. She wanted to steal the spotlight before it ever reached him. It was impossible not to see what was happening. Harper had always fed on attention, and she could feel it slipping now that Liam existed. For the first time in our family, someone else drew smiles and coos, even if it was just a child babbling in a high chair. To her, that small shift was unacceptable. Instead of finding joy in a new nephew, she fought to reclaim her position at the center. When I pleaded with my parents again, asking if they could at least stop by Liam's celebration before going to Harper's, they offered silence. My father muttered something about not being able to be in two places at once, while my mother softened her tone but not her meaning. "Harper has a lot on her plate right now. She deserves our support." That one word, deserves, lingered in my head. They never spoke about me that way. As I searched for allies, Naomi's reaction shook me the most. She told me she would try to make both, but her voice wavered. When I mentioned how much it meant to Liam, she quickly changed the subject, asking if I had seen Harper's new backyard deck. I caught the slip in her attention, the way she seemed already half pulled toward Harper's orbit. I reminded myself Naomi had been my anchor before, but in that moment, it felt like the ground beneath me was shifting again. Each call, each text, each hesitation stacked on top of the next until the picture became clear. My family would bend themselves in half before asking Harper to adjust anything. With me, they saw endless reasons to compromise, to sacrifice, to move aside. For Harper, they eagerly rearranged their schedules, their priorities, even their loyalty. No one cared that it was my baby's first milestone. No one cared that I had pleaded to be heard. As the day drew closer, I could feel the dread tightening in my chest. The decorations still hung in the living room. The cake order was placed, and Liam's tiny birthday outfit sat folded on the table. But instead of picturing laughter, I imagined rows of empty seats. For the first time, I admitted to myself that all those blank RSVP cards weren't an accident. They were a message. My family had chosen Harper again, and nothing I did, not even for my child, could change that. The morning of Liam's birthday started like something out of the picture I had held in my head for months. I woke up early, tiptoed into the living room, and began tying pale blue ribbons along the backs of the chairs. Balloons floated against the ceiling, swaying gently as the air conditioner clicked on. In the kitchen, the cake sat waiting inside its white box. I had peeked at it before bed the night before, just to reassure myself it was perfect. Soft frosting, a little crown, and Liam's name written across the top in simple letters. Everything looked exactly as I had imagined. For a moment, I let myself feel proud, like I had finally built something my family could step into and feel whole. As the clock crept toward 2 in the afternoon, I kept glancing at the door. I set out extra plates, arranged the cupcakes Naomi had helped me frost, and placed Liam's party hat on his high chair, but the minutes ticked by in silence. My parents weren't there. Neither was my sister. One by one, the chairs I had decorated looked less like a celebration and more like a reminder. By 2:30, every ribbon still hung untied, untouched, waiting for people who never arrived. My phone buzzed on the counter. My heart jumped, thinking it was someone telling me they were on their way. But the text was from Naomi. "Hey, stopping by Harper's first. Don't start without me." I read it again and again, the words blurring until I had to set the screen face down before Michael noticed my hands shaking. Something twisted in my chest. I opened Instagram, and there it was. Naomi's story, posted 20 minutes ago. A photo of Harper's pristine white front door with the caption, "So excited." My best friend, the one who promised to be there no matter what, was at Harper's house, too. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. She hadn't just chosen Harper's event. She had lied about coming to mine first. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't just losing my family. I was losing my best friend, too. Michael's family began arriving then. His mother walked in with gifts wrapped in yellow paper. His sister carried a tray of sandwiches, and their laughter filled the room effortlessly. They hung up coats, hugged me tightly, and kissed Liam on the cheeks while telling him how special he was. For them, it was a celebration. But for me, every new arrival only sharpened the outline of who wasn't there. My family's absence felt louder with every smiling face that wasn't theirs. When it came time to sing, I forced my lips into a smile. Michael lit the candle, everyone clapped, and the song rang out around my tiny living room. Liam pounded his little fists onto the cake, smearing frosting across his cheeks, while the camera flashed. Everyone laughed, and for a moment, watching my son's face light up with pure joy as he discovered the magic of cake, I almost forgot about the empty chairs. Almost. At one point, after the cake smash ended, I stepped outside for air. The neighborhood was quiet, but if I strained, I could faintly hear the thrum of music carrying from Harper's side of town. I knew her street, always filled quickly with cars, front doors wide open, her voice ushering guests in like royalty. If someone had told me to picture the difference between my house and hers at that moment, I would have said it was the difference between a whisper and a scream. I went back inside, where Michael's family continued to celebrate Liam wholeheartedly. Their warmth wrapped around us, but it only deepened the ache of being erased by the people I had expected would never need an invitation to show up. As Liam pressed cake into his high chair tray, his eyes sparkled in innocence, and all I could see was myself as a child, standing in rooms filled with applause for Harper, while I searched the crowd for someone clapping for me. Now, here it was again. Only this time, it wasn't me being overlooked. It was my son. By the time the last balloon sagged against the floor, I knew this day would never leave me. The cruel irony was impossible to ignore. On the most important day of my baby's early life, my family chose a house tour over their own blood. It wasn't a simple mistake or a scheduling conflict. It was the same pattern repeating, only louder and clearer than ever. I packed away crumbs, wiped icing off Liam's face, and smiled at Michael's relatives while my chest quietly broke underneath. What I couldn't have known as I folded the empty gift bags and stacked paper plates was that while my house had filled with genuine laughter and frosting-covered joy, Harper's perfect facade had already begun to crack. And then my phone lit up. 33 missed calls, all from my mother. Halfway through cleaning up the cake crumbs, my phone buzzed against the counter. At first, I thought it was another empty text from someone too polite to admit they weren't showing up. But when I picked it up, my mother's name appeared again and again. The subject line of one of her texts read only, "Call me now, emergency." I stepped out into the yard, away from Michael's family still chatting inside, and pressed redial. My mother answered almost immediately, her voice shaky. "Sheila, listen, we made a mistake," she said. I didn't speak, waiting for her to continue. What spilled out next twisted the knife I had already felt all day. Harper's so-called housewarming hadn't been a party at all. There was no food, no drinks, and no tables set. She had gathered everyone just to show off a couch and a dining set she'd bought. She told us it was important, my mother admitted, her voice breaking. She wanted us there to support her. She said the timing was unavoidable. Even through the phone, I heard the strain of regret. Harper had apparently tried to present her event as the bigger occasion, telling everyone that Liam wouldn't remember his first birthday anyway, that her gathering was the one people would talk about. And somehow, like always, they believed her. I could picture it clearly, the guests walking into Harper's pristine living room expecting celebration, only to find bare countertops, unpacked boxes, and Harper leading them on a tour of furniture arrangements. My mother's voice cracked as she described the scene. People kept looking around, asking when the party would start. Harper just kept showing us the same couch from different angles. Someone whispered, "Is this really the whole thing?" But we stayed because, well, because we always do. Then my mother's voice dropped to a whisper. "Sheila, people started leaving. After 20 minutes, they just left. The Hendersons from next door said they were going to check on Liam's real party." Mrs. Martinez asked me straight to my face why we weren't at our grandson's birthday. I didn't know what to say. For once, it wasn't me who was invisible. It was Harper. The humiliation in her voice was thick now. "Your father and I sat there on Harper's new couch, watching people walk out, and all I could think was that we should have been holding Liam. We should have been singing to him. Instead, we were staring at throw pillows while our grandson celebrated his first birthday without his grandparents." "What did she say?" I finally asked. My mother hesitated before answering. She told us she couldn't stand the idea of everyone caring more about Liam than her. She said she would do whatever it took to keep the family's focus. But Sheila, when people started leaving, she got desperate. She kept asking everyone to stay just 5 more minutes to see the master bedroom. It was pathetic. They wanted applause. What they got was silence and shame. The ache sharpened when Naomi's name left my mother's mouth next. "Naomi left first," she confessed. She stood up and said, "I promised Sheila I'd be at Liam's party, and I'm already an hour late." Harper's face went white. Everyone heard it, Sheila. Everyone knew where Naomi would rather be. But the final blow came when my mother whispered, "The worst part?" Someone posted on the neighborhood Facebook page a photo of Harper standing alone in her living room with the caption, "When you plan a housewarming, but forget the warming part." It has 47 comments, and they're all asking about Liam's birthday. As my mother spoke, tears blurred the corners of my vision, but not from pain anymore. The betrayal felt different now because justice had already been served, publicly, humiliatingly, and without me lifting a finger. My family hadn't simply abandoned us. They had abandoned us for something so hollow that even strangers could see through it. The strange, fierce satisfaction bloomed in my chest, while my living room had been filled with genuine laughter, sticky fingers, and the sweet chaos of a child discovering cake. Harper's had been filled with awkward silence, exodus in guests, and the echo of her own desperation. While Liam squealed with delight, surrounded by people who truly wanted to celebrate him, Harper had stood in her empty house, watching her triumph crumble in real time. "Mom," I said quietly, "I need you to understand something. This isn't about forgiveness. This is about Liam never experiencing what I did growing up. This is about him never wondering if he's worthy of showing up for." The line went quiet, except for my mother's quiet crying. "We know," she whispered. "We know we lost something today that we can't get back, and everyone in town knows it too." By the time I walked back into the kitchen, Liam was playing on the floor with a wrapping paper tube, Michael kneeling beside him. He looked up and smiled at me like nothing in the world was missing. In that moment, the clarity settled deep inside me. This cycle of favoritism, of bending around Harper while silencing me, would not touch him. Liam would never spend his life begging for scraps of recognition. I would make sure of it. The awakening hit sharply. I didn't need to fight for justice. Harper had engineered her own downfall. My parents had humiliated themselves in front of the entire community, and I had been exactly where I needed to be, celebrating my son with people who understood what love actually looked like. And with Liam's giggles filling the room, I knew I would never hand him the loneliness I had carried for decades. Sheila's heartbreak finally revealed the truth of her family's patterns. The favoritism that once left her as an overlooked daughter now extended to her own child, and that cut deeper than anything before. But from that pain came clarity. She chose not to repeat what had broken her for decades. Liam would grow up in a home where love wasn't conditional, where every achievement mattered, and where no one could be erased to keep someone else comfortable. The past couldn't be undone, but the future was wide open. Tell me, if your family abandoned your child's first birthday for a couch, would you ever forgive them?